Black Ops 7 Warzone is finally here. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys what I believe are going to be the top 5 meta loadouts to be using to start out in Black Ops 7 Warzone. If you guys are excited for the remainder of the year for Warzone, what lies ahead, make sure that you guys go down below and drop a like and let me know what you're most excited for in this season of Black Ops 7. With that being said, let's go ahead and get right on into the top 5 best meta loadouts to be using in Warzone Season 1. Alright guys, so to start out our meta loadout, we're going to be using the MK78 LMG. This thing is super reliable at long ranges, has almost no recoil and an insanely fast TTK, which is why I'm putting it at the #1 most likely to be meta long range gun. It's been a while since we've had a meta LMG and I feel like this one might just take the cake. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into the class setup. To start off for the optic, we're using the Lethal Tools ELO optic, which you guys are going to see are going to be coming up a lot in this video. This is one of the most trustworthy optics to be using in the game. There's no real good long range optics, at least as of right now. While there's no tuning, they'll probably make some adjustments towards all the optics in the future like they have in every single game, but at least as of right now, the Lethal Tools ELO is the best optic because not only does it give you better clarity, but it also gives you less visual recoil since it's just a one-time scope. So just to get it out of the way, all of these builds are most likely going to either have the Lethal Tools or an iron sight, with the exception of course snipers. Moving on, we have the monolithic suppressor to boost to our bullet velocity and damage range and to keep us undetected by the radar whenever you fire a weapon, which is super important whether you're playing Verdansk or Haven's Hollow. For the barrel, we're using the 18.5-inch Titan hybrid barrel for some more damage range and bullet velocity. This is going to make it to where we can fry our enemies a lot easier at those long range engagements. For the underbarrel, we're using the Bowen Sentry foregrip for a huge boost to our horizontal recoil control. So this is what's going to keep our LMG steady while we fire at farther ranges. And then lastly, for the fifth and final attachment, we're using the accelerated recoil system, which is essentially recoil springs. It's going to give us a huge boost to our vertical and horizontal recoil control. Once I bring this thing into the firing range, as you guys can see right here, this thing has absolutely no recoil, has a super competitive TTK, and I'm barely even moving my joystick when controlling the recoil for this gun. If you guys want some proof, this is how the recoil looks on it when in comparison to a wall. Now we're just going to cancel it out, and it's super easy to keep it all in the same place. I don't even have to look at my screen. Moving on to the secondary of the class setup, we're using the Ryden 45K. This is a super competitive SMG that I feel like is super underlooked, has really good mobility, low recoil, and a fast TTK. So overall, it's just a jack of all trades. You guys are going to notice that you guys are going to have insane strafing speed with this build. I'm super excited to get right on into it. To start off for the compensator, we're using the Hawker Series 45 for a boost to our vertical recoil control. This is an absolute must. If you guys want to take this off and replace it with an optic, because you guys can't use iron sights, you guys are more than welcome to use that. For the barrel, of course, we're using the 10.5-inch Greaves whiptail barrel for some more damage range and bullet velocity to take care of enemies at farther range engagements. For the underbarrel, we're going to be using the Flow Guard foregrip for some more horizontal recoil control, sprinting movement speed, and overall movement speed. This is going to make it to where not only are we getting a buff to our horizontal recoil control, but we're still staying super mobile on our feet and our movement speed is insane. For the magazine, we're using the forward breach mag for the highest ammo capacity we can have on this submachine gun, which you're definitely going to need since it has such a fast fire rate. And then for our fifth and final attachment, we're going to be using the Lennox grip for a boost to our sprint to fire speed and jumping sprint to fire speed. This is going to make it to where even if our gun is all the way down, we're going to be able to pull it up and beat our enemies at those close range engagements a lot quicker. All right, now when taking the Ryden into the firing range, as you guys can see right here, the recoil on it overall just isn't too bad, meaning that you guys really don't have to do much apart from just pull down to your stick. The strafing movement speed on it is insane, and honestly, I'm one of the only people that feels like the iron sight on it really isn't all that bad. So if you guys can manage to do the iron sight build that I gave you, I feel like that's most likely going to be your best bet. That's going to be loadout 1. Let's go ahead and move over to loadout 2, which is going to be for the MXR and the MPC. To start off, the reason I chose the MXR is because not only does this thing have barely any recoil, but you guys don't have to run an optic because the iron sight is just so clean, meaning that you guys can take out enemies at farther ranges with attachments way easier using this assault rifle, and it's also a lot quicker on its feet than the MK78, which is why I would put it at #2 for the best assault rifle to use. This thing is a hard hitter, so let's go ahead and get right on into the class setup. To start off, we're going to be using the monolithic suppressor to keep us undetected by the minimap whenever you fire a weapon. We're also going to get some more bullet velocity and damage range. For the barrel, we're using the 18-inch Rift M7 barrel for some more damage range and bullet velocity to take out enemies at farther range engagements. For the underbarrel, of course, you're using the lateral precision grip for a boost to our horizontal recoil control. For the magazine, we're using the Rhodes drum mag for the highest ammo capacity you can rock on this assault rifle. And then for our fifth and final attachment, we're using the recoil sync unit for a boost to our vertical and horizontal recoil control. But of course, if you guys feel more than comfortable controlling this gun's recoil, you guys can also put the overpressure rounds on for some more bullet velocity, depending on if you guys are playing Haven's Hollow or Verdansk. As you guys can see, like I said, this thing has absolutely no recoil whatsoever and is definitely a heavy hitter. I still don't think that it's going to beat the MK78 LMG by any means, but it's definitely still a very competitive assault rifle that I think that is going to be good in the meta. And it really doesn't take too much to cancel it out either. As you guys can see right here, the recoil pattern is literally just straight up. So as long as you guys pull down on your left stick to the left, you guys will literally be able to cancel it out perfectly every single time at almost every single range. Moving on to the secondary and a fan favorite, we're using the MPC. This thing has some overall really good recoil control and damage range, and although it may not be the best SMG to be using like the Ryden, I really do feel like it's really competitive in the meta and is a great throwback SMG to be using in the game. With that being said, let's get into the class setup. To start, we're using the KNS compensator for a boost to our vertical recoil control, since this gun to start does have a little bit of that. For the barrel, we're going to be using the 14.5 inch vast ash barrel because I typically would use the barrel that gives us bullet velocity and damage range, but the MPC really lacks in damage range in comparison to other SMGs and truly is one of those guns that you do have to be up close. So we're just going to put on the vast ash barrel because this gives us the most damage range possible. For the underbarrel, we're using the flow guard foregrip for some more horizontal recoil control, sprinting movement speed, and overall movement speed. But if you guys feel like you guys can control the recoil as well, you guys can also use the vast drift lock foregrip for some more overall horizontal recoil control. For the magazine, we're using the MPC overload drum for the highest ammo capacity you can rock on this submachine gun. This thing definitely gives a little bit of an MP7-esque vibe from Modern Warfare 2019, so we definitely want to rock the highest ammo capacity possible. And then lastly, for our fifth and final attachment, we're going to be using the torque prime grip for a boost to our sprint to fire speed and jumping sprint to fire speed, which has the same reasoning as I had with the Ryden. It just allows you to pull your gun a lot quicker in close range engagements and win those close gunfights with enemies. Bringing the MPC into the firing range, this is how it looks in game. As you guys can see, it kind of carries itself up towards the head a little bit. This is the movement build, so we're not rocking the drift lock underbarrel. This thing still has absolutely no recoil. As I said, it's not intended to be used at super far range engagements, but definitely still gives that MP7 vibe that I was telling you guys about, where you can kind of challenge them from 10 meters and up close. You're literally just going to want to pull down into the left to control this SMG. It really doesn't have that much of hard recoil to manage, so as long as you guys just pull down into the left, this is going to be one of the easier SMGs for you to use. With that being said, we're going to move on to the third best class setup, which is of course going to be for the M15 mod and the carbon. The reason that this thing's not in my number 1 or number 2 spot, even though it has absolutely no recoil and insane TTK, is because it just most recently caught a nerf in the season 1 update, so it's kind of hard to say whether it's going to be good or not. It's going to be one of those guns that you're going to have to take into a game and feel it out for yourself, and if it feels good enough for you, then this thing might just be your bread and butter. This thing gives me heavy M13 vibes for Modern Warfare 2019 with how little recoil that it has. All that being said, let's go ahead and jump right on into the class setup for this thing. To start off, of course, as you guys all know, we're using the Lethal Tools ELO optic for the reasons that I gave earlier. The monolithic suppressor to give us more damage range, bullet velocity, and keep us off of the minimap whenever we fire our weapon. The fusion barrel for some more bullet velocity and damage range at farther range engagements. The axis shift vertical foregrip for a huge boost to our horizontal recoil control. And lastly, for our fifth and final attachment, the bow and bulwark mag for the highest ammo capacity possible. Of course, bringing the M15 mod into the firing range, as I said, it literally reminds me dead of a M13. It has absolutely no recoil. It's honestly a shame that they put some nerfs towards this thing. I really do feel like this thing could be great, but maybe in mid to close range engagements in Haven's Hollow, this thing might just be competitive in the meta. It's really hard for me to say, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. Moving on to the secondary, we're gonna be using the Carbon 57, which is just like the OG PDW that we all know and love from Black Ops 2. And although this thing may not be the number 1 SMG that I would recommend, this thing is super well rounded, whether that be its very low recoil combined with its excellent damage range. This thing is an absolute beam when it comes to mid to close range engagements. So let's get right on into the class. To start, we're using the KNS compensator for a boost to our vertical recoil control. We're going to be using the 14-inch Rock Lee barrel for a huge boost to our damage range to make sure that this SMG can torch people at farther ranges. Although that's not what it's intended for, we still want to make sure that we're going to be prepared for those types of situations. For the underbarrel, we're going to be using the Sapper Guard handstock for a boost to our horizontal recoil control, sprinting movement speed, and movement speed. For the rear grip, we're going to be using the Remus sprint grip for a boost to our sprint to fire speed and jumping sprint to fire speed for the same reasons that I used it on the MPC and the Ryden. And then lastly, for the fifth and final attachment, we're going to be using the Graph Arrow stock for a boost to our hip fire movement speed, and strafing movement speed. If you guys aren't too big on mobility, you guys can go ahead and replace this with the accelerated recoil system. When taking a look at the carbon, like I said, this thing has absolutely no recoil, really good damage range, and might be one of the most well-rounded SMGs that we've had in a Warzone in a while. And the recoil on it isn't hard to control at all. It literally goes up and to the right and then up and to the left. So if you guys just kind of pace yourselves a little bit, down and to the left, down and to the right, you guys will be able to perfectly control this thing's recoil. Moving on from all these assault rifle and and SMGs that are for sure going to be in the meta. Let's go ahead and turn the spotlight over to my snipers who clicked on this video. I got you guys with 2 snipers that are most likely going to be the best options for you to use. Starting off with the obvious choice, which is going to be the VS Recon. The VS Recon is the only true bolt action sniper that we have, at least as of right now, in Black Ops 7. And of course, we are going to be getting one later on in this season, and we're just going to have to see how competitive that one is in the meta. But at least as of right now, this is the only one shot to the head sniper rifle. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into what the best class is to use for it. Of course, we're going to start with the monolithic suppressor to keep us undetected by the minimap whenever we fire our weapon and give us a boost of bullet velocity and damage range, which is huge to extend that one-shot headshot potential. For the barrel, we're going to be using the 21-inch Engage R barrel for some more damage range and bullet velocity, again to extend that one-shot headshot range. For the underbarrel, we're actually going to be using a prestige attachment. We're going to be using the MFS R-Stop handguard underbarrel for a huge boost to our hold breath duration, rechamber stabilization, aim speed and sprint to fire timing, and also recoil and sway control when holding our breath. If you guys haven't prestiged your VS Recon and leveled it up, I highly recommend just doing it right now and getting it out the way before you go into Warzone, because it's just going to make the experience so much better. But if you guys don't have the time to do that and you guys just want to jump right in, don't worry, you guys can go ahead and replace this underbarrel with this stock right here called the Stable Heavy Pad to just reduce your overall flinch resistance while enemies are shooting at you. This way you're still receiving an attachment that'll make it to where when you're getting shot at, you're not going to be missing off of your target. Moving on to the next attachment, we're going to be using the VSR Extended Mag 2 for the highest ammo capacity possible, but of course this is really all up to personal preference. If you guys just want to put on the extended mag, that's completely up to you. I just personally like to rock the highest magazine capacity on all my snipers since they're intended for long range use. And then lastly, for the fifth and final attachment, we're going to be using the 7.62 NATO overpressured rounds for a huge boost to our bullet velocity, so that way we can make it as close to hit scan as possible. Of course, here's the VS Recon. As you guys all know, it's literally just one shot to the head. This is with plates, by the way. It's going to crack them on their upper torso. It's just not going to show it there because we're in the firing range. Super mobile sniper rifle. I think that using this thing is going to be really fun, and the base optic for it is one of the most satisfying sniper rifle optics that we've had in a little bit, since I want to say almost a prime HDR. Moving on to our sniper support choice for this sniper rifle, we're going to be using the Peacekeeper. This thing is not very good at long range engagements like other ARs that I've shown you in this video, but it's very surprisingly good when it comes to mid to short range engagements, and that's why I feel like it's the perfect choice for the VS Recon. So let's go ahead and get right on into this high caliber build. To start, we're going to be putting the monolithic suppressor on it for a boost to our bullet velocity and damage range and keep us undetected by the minimap whenever we fire our weapon. If the recoil ends up being too much for you guys on this build, of course feel free to put on the KNS compensator. I just personally feel like the monolithic suppressor is better since you don't get as much muzzle flash and you stay concealed off of the minimap. For the barrel, we're going to be using the 21-inch DF3 merge barrel for a boost to our damage range and bullet velocity. We want this to be well rounded since this is an assault rifle and not an SMG, so this is going to be the best attachment to use on it. For the underbarrel, we're going to be using the lateral precision grip since the Peacekeeper has a lot of recoil when it's starting out, so we're going to put this on to reduce our horizontal recoil. For the magazine, we're going to be using the Barrage Extended Mag for the highest ammo capacity possible, but if you guys want to be a little bit more on your feet and a little quicker, of course feel free to use the Vulcan Reach extension, so that way you guys just have somewhat of an extended round mag, but you're not going to be taking a huge hit to your ADS speed or movement speed. And lastly, the fifth and final and arguably most important attachment, it's going to be another prestige attachment. You're going to be using the MFS Counter Force C1 stock for a huge boost to your recoil stabilization, tac stand spread, and vertical and horizontal recoil control. This is the attachment that brings this assault rifle all together as a sniper support, but again, if you guys don't have this attachment unlocked, I highly recommend that you guys go and prestige your weapon and just level it up, pop a double XP token, pop it in Nuketown 24/7. You guys will run through it in a breeze. But if you guys don't want to go and level your gun up and you guys just want to hop straight in, feel free to replace it with the buffer springs for some horizontal and vertical recoil control. That works as well. I want to show you guys how good the Peacekeeper could be as a sniper support in the right hand. So bring it into the firing range and just controlling the recoil. All you have to do really is just pull it down into the left. That's the consistent recoil pattern that the Peacekeeper has. It goes straight up and then starts to tilt a far dip into the right. So if you guys just pull down in the beginning and then you guys start to gradually pull down left towards your stick, you guys are going to hit almost all of your shots. And this thing has a super competitive TTK that can compete with a lot of SMGs in the meta up close. And then moving on to our last, fifth and final best class setup that we're going to be using in this video, we are going to be putting on the X3 Ion. Now the X3 Ion itself is not a very impressive gun in games like multiplayer where you need to be very quick on your feet, but in games like Warzone, if you're within the perfect range, this thing might be one of the better guns to be using in the game. It's going to be one of those guns that I'm really predicting is going to be good in the meta. I haven't myself actually used it, but when I took it into the firing range, which I'm going to show you guys later, this thing one shots 3 plates in one shot in the upper torso at the right range. So we're just going to have to see how this plays out in the Warzone meta. With all that being said, let me go ahead and give you guys the best attachments. To start off off, we're of course again going to be using the monolithic suppressor for a boost to our bullet velocity, damage range, and keep us undetected by the mini-map whenever you fire this weapon. For the barrel, we're going to be using the 17-inch XR adapt barrel for a boost to our bullet velocity and damage range to extend our one-shot potential. For the magazine, we're definitely going to want to be putting on the mammoth stack extended for the highest ammo capacity possible, since the sniper shoots in 3-round bursts. For the stock, we're definitely going to want to use the lethal absorb stock for a huge boost to our flinch resistance when being fired at. And then lastly, for the fifth and final attachment, we're going to be using the 7.62 NATO overpressured rounds for a boost to our bullet velocity. That way we can make the sniper as close to hit scan as possible. And of course, like I said, I wanted to show you guys this thing's insane one-shot potential in the firing range. Taking a look at how this thing looks when all 3 of those lasers for the burst are pointed at their upper torso, it one-shots, and then it one-shots. As you guys can see right there, that is the 50-meter mark, meaning that if this sniper rifle is doing what it's doing in the firing range, this thing is going to be one of the most broken guns to be using in the game. And you guys can see how fast the fire rate on this thing is too. So if you aren't one-tapping them, you could still two-tap them in literally less than a second. So put this thing on, give it a test in Haven's Hollow or Verdansk, and let me know how it is down in the comment section. It's definitely not going to be one of the first guns that I use, but it is going to be one that I use along the way, because I want to see if it does exactly what it's doing in the firing range here. If it does, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to remind me of the BROKEN meta a lot. And finally, moving on to our last gun, and arguably one of the lowest recoil guns that we can use in the game, we're going to be using the Draic as our sniper support weapon. Now, this thing most recently caught a little bit of a mobility nerf in the recent season 1 update, but it still has absolutely no recoil and insane damage range. It also has clean iron sights, so that way you guys can take out your enemies even at mid-range engagements, making this one of the best SMGs to be running in the game with a sniper. All that being said, let's go ahead and get into the 10th and final class setup. To start off, since this gun has no recoil to begin with, we're going to be putting on the monolithic suppressor to keep us undetected by the mini-map whenever you fire our weapon. We're also going to get a huge boost to the bullet velocity and damage range, extending the capabilities of this SMG to be farther, since we are going to be using it like a sniper support. For the barrel, we're going to be using the 14-inch verse barrel for a boost to our damage range and bullet velocity, again extending the longer range potential of this SMG, even though we're mostly going to be using a close range. For the magazine, we're going to be using the Gator extended mag for a boost to our magazine capacity. We don't have to rock the highest ammo capacity, but if you guys do want to, of course, you guys are more than welcome to. I just don't want to take any more ADS speed or sprint to fire speed cons when we've already gotten so many in the recent update. For the rear grip, we're going to be using the Helix tack grip for some more sprint to fire speed and jumping sprint to fire speed. Again, same exact reasoning behind the Ryden MPC and the Carbon 57 SMG. It's just to pull your weapon up a lot quicker in those closer engagements. And then lastly, for the 5th and final attachment, just to give us a hint of that mobility back, we're going to be using the EAM Heritage stock for a boost to our hipfire movement speed, and strafing movement speed. And when bringing this insane sniper support into the firing range, as you guys can see, it has absolutely no recoil whatsoever. One of the cleanest iron sights that we could be using in the game. That's 50 meters right there. We're taking them out with ease. We're not really moving our joystick all too much at all. This thing has an insane extended mag ammo capacity. If you guys look down in the bottom right hand corner, with an extended mag, this thing starts off with a base of 48. This thing is going to be one of the best sniper supports to be using in the game for sure. With all that being said, those are the top 5 best meta loadouts to be using to start off in season 1 of Warzone. Of course, as the meta shifts and changes, because they are going to be doing a lot of it, as you guys have been seeing from the recent patch notes, we're going to be making these videos to keep you guys in the loop about all the meta. So if you guys don't want to miss any of our best class setups, tips and tricks, or high kill gameplays, make sure you guys of course go down below and drop a sub and turn the post notifications bell turned on, that way you guys don't miss any future uploads, because you are not going to miss what we have planned here on the channel. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Later.